Like, think about how many assassination attempts have we seen on a president over the past, let's call it 12 years or so. We've only seen them with a president that people don't like. And the people that I'm talking about are the people who are in power, who actually control some of this stuff. What's up, world? Welcome back to Cancel Thoughts. It's your boy, Better Days here. Ladies and gentlemen, alliances are being made and lines are being drawn when it comes to this political election this year, and it's something that's really wonderful for me to see. Very recently, the Flagrant guys and Andrew Schulz did an interview with Donald Trump, and it's something that I think is important for all of us to watch. So hit like, hit subscribe, and let's get right into it.
Who do you think tried to take you out?
So I'm going to give you some big breaking news, right?
Love that.
Because I know the kind of show and it's entertainment, but it's also very serious. I mean, I get the whole picture. And you know what? If it was just funny stuff, you wouldn't have the success you've got, to be honest with you,
Fair.
right?
Yeah.
It's nice to intersperse it, but I'll give you something. So, first of all, I have great respect for the Secret Service. And the guys that were with me, I went down and I did a good job going down because those bullets were winging over my head. If I would have been up for another couple of seconds, I also wouldn't have been here.
Yeah.
But I didn't consider that as lucky as turning to the right at that one. It was like 1/16 of a second.
Yeah.
Was the only time that I was safe, essentially.
Right.
If I would have gone a little further, I would have been hit. If I would have gone not as far, I would have been hit. I mean, I had like this little tiny moment. And the amazing thing is the sign is always on my left and it's always at the end. And I only use it 20% of the time, maybe even less than that.
And this was time it's
chart.
on the right.
This was a chart on immigration because I have the record. I did a great job in immigration. They are not doing too well right now.
They are, but I want to talk about something that really like bothers me about this whole situation is the idea that a lot of people really believe that Trump really staged that entire assassination attempt, which just goes to show that people are so disillusioned with Trump and hate him so much.
They believe what they want to believe.
For anybody to think that Donald Trump, the person who was already winning and who was already leading, needed something like a fake botched assassination attempt to boost his poll numbers, to me is just so crazy. That's number one. Number two, he brought up immigration there, and I want to talk about immigration as well because a lot of people don't necessarily live in some of these sanctuary cities, and I happen to be one of those people who does. It is crazy here. You guys don't understand the scale of how bad the immigration is right now.
It's been really bad.
I am a legal immigrant. I am immigration first all the time, and I am for immigration. However, it has to be done legally. We were not allowed to just walk across a border to come into America because no one should be allowed to do that. You don't necessarily know who is coming to your country if that's the case. The amount of money that we in these sanctuary cities have been giving over to these migrant shelters and all of this funding that they've been receiving is so crazy. They have raised taxes twice, I believe, in the past couple of years.
Which is kind of crazy.
They've raised property taxes as well, and they've been doing so fraudulently, in my opinion. I don't necessarily know because I'm not a homeowner, but I've seen a lot of people, and I know a lot of people who own homes who have been saying their property taxes have been increasing. And all of that funding has been going to people who don't pay any taxes. Explain to me how that makes any sense, and then explain to me why people should vote for the Democrats.
Stay on the breaking news. Stay on the breaking news.
So here's the breaking news. So you have this shooter and you have another shooter, right? Yeah. So this shooter had 3 or so cell phones. The FBI's never gotten them opened.
Wow.
The other shooter, 3 apps, they call them. And I believe they were foreign-based apps, from what I understand.
Oh, wow.
They haven't opened them, and they're foreign-based. And you hear all about Iran, because I was rough with Iran, but I want to see Iran do great.
Yeah.
But I want to stop all the killing and all this. And I was rough on Iran, and they supposedly have a hit on me. In fact, I think it takes great courage for you people to be interviewing me, because it could be now,
Yeah. Well, we didn't know that before we got in here.
No, if you would have known that, you might not have done this.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, before they even continue, I want to commend the Flagrant podcast and all of these guys for actually even doing this interview, because no doubt about it, they may have just lost sponsorship opportunities. They may have lost some of their fan base, but they understand how important this election is. They understand how important it is for people to actually ask the difficult questions. And I watched this interview in its entirety, guys. If you guys haven't already, I implore you guys to do the same thing, because it was brilliantly done. I cannot commend Andrew Schulz and them enough. They asked questions, even though they did it in a kind of comedic manner, which is kind of their thing. Obviously, they're comedians or whatever, but they asked important questions and they were able to do so in a way that was so funny and people were able to digest it. To me, it's just like, I got to give them a round of applause for that, because they didn't do this contentiously. There were no gotcha questions. It was a respectful interview. It was funny here and there. It was something that was brilliant for me to watch, if I'm being 100% honest.
In fact, this is a good way of me getting the interview to be shorter. Exactly. All of a sudden he's going to say, okay, that's it. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Go see my daughter.
Anyway, they have 3 apps, and foreign-based, 2 of them, maybe 3 of them are foreign-based. They haven't opened them yet. Why wouldn't you open them when you hear about Iran or when you hear about, foreign? Then the other one had 6 cell phones, and they haven't opened. Now, it's very hard to open a cell phone. Only Apple can do it in theory, unless you have somebody. But they had no problem getting the J6 people's cell phones open. They opened their cell phones very.
They wanted to get those people. They don't want to get whoever is actually behind the people who are trying to assassinate you, because I have a sneaking suspicion that the very people who are supposed to be prosecuting this are also the people who have been trying to get you assassinated. So they wouldn't want to prosecute themselves. So obviously they don't necessarily care very much about it. They would love to see you not be able to become the president. Now, that's just, again, speculation, and I have no proof of this. So I don't want to get sued or anything like that. But it's just a thought that I'm having, and I'm sure a lot of people have had that same thought as well.
Very quickly. We have 2 countries in a way. What's happening here is very bad. It's very dangerous. We almost had one, because I had the greatest economy in the history of our country, and people were coming together. We almost had one, but we really do have 2 right now, and it's a shame, because I think we'll get them together. Success will bring us together. But they should get those phones opened. And, when there's an assassination attempt on a former president who's now, I'm proud to say, leading in all the polls against a Democrat, I don't know which one is running. You don't know what the hell's going on. I'm the only one that had to run against 2. I run against 2 Democrats, but this is a first. We create a lot of firsts. Usually you run against somebody. Here I run. I had the debate. I was way up on him. Yeah. And then they say, let's put this is like with Dana White, a fighter. So you're fighting, and the one guy's getting killed, and they say, that's okay, let's put in another fighter to finish it off, okay? Yeah. And you're fighting, you say, hey, wait a minute, I have a brand new fighter in here.
WWE.
A lot of people think that the Democratic Party is for democracy, and they're Democratic as their namesake would suggest they are. No, they're not. If they were as democratic as you guys want to believe that they are, wouldn't they have allowed the people to decide who was going to replace Joe Biden? We all knew that Joe Biden had to be replaced, obviously, because of his clear cognitive decline that people have been talking about over the past God knows how many years now. But wouldn't they have allowed the people to vote for who they want to represent the Democratic Party, since they're all about democracy and Trump is this threat to democracy or whatever? Why is it that the powers that be, Lord knows who they are, why is it that they just kind of installed Kamala Harris, who nobody voted for, by the way? Think about this, guys. Biden chose Kamala Harris. No one voted for Kamala Harris
at all.
So you guys have been claiming that Trump is this threat to democracy, but you guys are obviously doing things that are counter to what you guys have been claiming, and you guys have essentially taken the actions that you would think that Trump would be the person to take. So
you're hypocrites.
Spent $150 million on beating Biden. And then all of a sudden, I hear that they're going to overthrow him. It was a coup. I mean, it really was. But I would like them to open up these apps and find out what's in there. And so he had six cell phones. Who has 6 cell phones? Mm-hmm. Having 6 cell phones is weird. I have cell phones. If I ever have 2, it's like a lot.
Yeah.
He had 6 cell phones. Why does he have them? And why haven't they opened up those cell phones?
So if you had to
and
guess.
It's different. If you're a drug dealer, I think it's terrible in many ways, but I guess from another standpoint, Apple, the primary group, people buy those phones because they will never open them for any reason. But they got them open on J6. They opened up their phones.
That's because they were your supporters, Trump. People do not like you, man. And it's really, really sad because I think he was probably better for our country than a lot of presidents, at least certainly in my lifetime. But they don't like you, man. And it's just the fact of the matter. And I'm going to go out and make this prediction. They are never, ever going to open those phones, okay? That's number one. But number two, it's kind of the same as the reason why we haven't gotten any of the names off the Epstein list is that the people who have a vested interest in keeping all of that stuff hidden from the public or whatever are the same people who are essentially pulling the strings of the Democratic Party right now and who are using the DOJ to kind of enact their agenda.
They don't open, and this is big stuff. This is an assassination attempt, and it could involve other countries.
There was that San Bernardino shooter that they hacked. The FBI was able to hack into the phone. Apple didn't give it up, but they were able to
There are
hack in.
some people in the world, very few, that have an ability to sometimes be able to hack in.
Got it.
Very rarely, actually.
Yeah.
It's an amazing thing when you think that with all the genius, you almost can't do it. But Apple has a key, and the key is open. I mean, they can do it immediately.
Yeah.
But they don't do it, and they don't do it, and that's one of the reasons that, like, I hate to say it, drug lords feel very confident that they'll never be exposed, and they use their cell phones, their Apple phones, and maybe it's that way with other companies. I don't know. They have Samsung, they have other companies, but it's very hard.
Another thought that I just had is what's the point of having this key if you never use that key? And what are you guys really like doing if you're Apple? And listen, I'm not an Apple person. I've never been, well, I was an Apple person maybe 2011, 2012 or something like that. But I've always hated Apple ever since the iPhone 3GS that I had that ruined itself. So I've been Samsung for a very long time now. But still, like, what is the point of having a key, especially for moments like this when you see that they're reluctant to open the phone? Just like, what exactly do you guys have it for if you guys aren't going to use it to essentially find the wrongdoers? So for anybody who this just goes to show you that the people who are in power for some of these large corporations and whatnot, they have their own political agendas as well, and they're against Trump too. And despite all of that, Trump is still winning and is going to win, in my opinion.
Hard. Apple's very strong on that. But when it comes to the assassination of a president, leading candidate, former president, all that, I think the rules have to go out and they have to open those things and they have to find out.
And in terms of national security,
some people would say you have to either punish Apple or you have to get somebody that can do it. But in terms of national security, so the one guy has 6 phones, lots of messages to people. Who are those people he's calling when he's hiding behind a bush?
So if you had to guess, I'm sure obviously you've thought about this a lot. It's an assassination attempt. If you had to guess, who do you think is responsible?
These are great questions. What the hell? I don't get these questions from the fake news.
Yeah.
I legitimately loved watching this entire interview because for once we didn't have a contentious interview with Trump. It was just people asking questions and allowing him to speak. They weren't cutting him off. They weren't trying to essentially enact their own agendas or whatever, which I believe is something that we need to see and has been lacking from the mainstream media and whatnot. But watch it, guys. Please, please, please watch it. They talked about abortion. They talked about immigration. They talked about the border. They talked about his economy. Bro, they talked about everything and they weaved it in there so well that you can't even... You can't be mad at it if you watch this interview in its entirety.
Rosie O'Donnell's been asking
like
this.
Deface the Nation. They have the woman on Brennan. She's on Deface the Nation. She was terrible with the way she handled J.D. Vance, who did a great job the other night.
He did do a great job.
But I don't get questions like that. Did you ever hear of the show Deface? Ladies and gentlemen, it's Donald Trump on Deface the Nation. It's called Face the Nation. They hate me.
No,
they spend millions of dollars.
They would name a show that?
Oh, I see. You didn't hear of it. That's good. They spend millions of dollars on the name CBS. Yeah. And then I come along and I say it's Face the Nation. It's well done. Or Meet the Fake Press. Meet the press.
You're good at this.
I say Meet the Fake Press. Yeah. And they spend all this money, and then I say it once, and it goes to millions of people. Yeah. But no, they are fake. But some of these questions are much better.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm honored.
Much better.
You still haven't answered, though.
That was the best dodge of the question.
That's your second best dodge in your life.
You almost charmed us out of it.
Trying to get out of it.
Yo, Trump is such a likable person, G. You see how disarmed he is when he realizes, oh, these guys are actually real people that are not bought and paid for by people who want to see me fail. It's just, it's really refreshing to watch from the perspective of a fan, because that's the only way we're actually going to get any of the answers that we really need to make informed decisions. And I wonder why the mainstream media doesn't have these kinds of interviews.
Fair enough.
Well, look, if you look at assassinations or attempts, first of all, you realize I'm in a very dangerous business.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because 1/10, think of this, 1/10 of 1% of auto races die.
Yep.
Bull riders, I think that's pretty dangerous,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
I don't know much about it, but I think I wouldn't want to be on one of those suckers.
No. Yeah.
I see them flying off and the hoof is like an inch from the eye, and when it hits the eye, you're gone,
Game
right?
over. Yeah.
And they are very, well, it's about the same. 1/10 of 1%.
Yeah.
And other things, it's never much more than that. That's sort of maxed out, I think.
Yeah.
Race car drivers, bull riders, I think that's pretty much tough.
Yeah.
UFC fighters, it's none. I don't think anyone's ever actually...
Not in UFC. In MMA or boxing,
Maybe.
unfortunately,
It must
there was
be.
those tragic events. Yeah.
Amazingly, boxers die a lot. But UFC, Dana tells me it's a safe sport. I say, to me, it's much rougher. But, it's pretty amazing. They've never, in UFC, they've
Yeah.
never lost. And they run a great operation. Nobody's died. But with presidents, it's like a substantial percentage.
Way higher than we
When
realized.
you
Yeah.
look at Lincoln and Kennedy and this and that. I mean,
attempts,
you go
Reagan.
through McKinley.
Yep. Garfield.
You look at a lot of people. I'm in
Yeah.
a very dangerous...
Dangerous business.
Yeah, that's because all of those presidents didn't play ball. And if you're a president who's not willing to play ball with the powers that be, they will get rid of you, as they've tried to do to you several times, which just goes to show, if from the perspective of the public here, why do you guys think several people have tried to assassinate him right now? It's because he's trying to actually overthrow them, and he's trying to actually stand for you. That's the only reason. Like, think about how many assassination attempts have we seen on a president over the past, let's call it 12 years or so. We've only seen them with a president that people don't like. And the people that I'm talking about are the people who are in power, who actually control some of this stuff. Ask yourself those questions, guys. Stop allowing these people to make fools of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I call it a profession.
Yes.
Yeah.
A dangerous profession.
I like that.
I'm sitting with you guys. You have a very nice, safe life. Me?
Yeah.
So, no, if you said 5%.
I think he called us soft.
No,
Yeah,
but think
I'm fine
of
with
it. Yeah, but think of it. 5%.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's high.
That's a lot.
I think even the attempts is something like
Attempts?
25%
Yeah.
of
attempts
presidents have had
is getting
attempt.
into really
It's crazy.
crazy numbers. So people don't think of that. You run and you see, and then you win, and you're down Pennsylvania. You're looking at everything. So you're in a
That's the danger
dangerous
starts.
profession.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things. I was saying before, though, that, I do a thing called a weave.
Yeah.
And there are those that are fair that say, this guy is so genius. And then others would say, oh, he rambled. I don't ramble. If I
weave.
start a story, what you do is you weave things and you do it. You have to have certain things. You need an extraordinary memory, because you have to come back to where you started.
Yes.
You always, a weave is only...
I hope one day that I get big enough to where I can meet this man.
Fingers crossed.
Yo, he just seems like a delight. Like, I cannot express this enough. He just seems like a really delightful person. And the fact of the matter is, I'm pretty sure that most of the people who meet him, and from everybody that I've seen who talk about him, who actually know him, they all say the exact same thing. And the only people who actually hate him are people who don't know him, or people who are paid to hate him. Everybody else that actually meets him and shakes his hand, they never really have anything bad to say about him. I want you guys to really pay attention to that.
only good
They
if
would
you
give you
come
credit
back.
for that.
Yeah, it's true.
That you could go all the way over here and then
I
get
can
back.
go so far here or there, and I can come back to exactly where I started. Now, someday when you don't come back to where you started,
You're Biden.
then you say, no, but the weave is the way. When you're telling like a story, I was telling a story at a rally the other day in front of thousands of people, and I started off, and then
You were weaving them up.
something in the story,
Bro.
I actually mentioned Air Force One. It was Air Force One was there. So I mentioned Air Force One, and then I said how I got $1.6 billion off the price of Air Force One. So, but then you have to come back to the story. Where was Air Force One taking you?
As I
So
was
anyway, I do a weave. I call it the weave. And some people think it's so genius, but the bad people, what they say is, He was rambling.
Yeah.
It's not a ramble. There's no rambling.
This is a
with
weave.
it. This is a weave. I call it the
Weave.
weave. Good name. I'm not sure. That's another name. We had fake news.
Yeah,
We came
yeah.
up with lots of names.
Yeah.
But the weave is, I think we should make the weave a part of that
Yeah.
stable.
Yeah, you really weaved away to answering my question twice.
That's brilliant.
So
'Cause I don't even want to know the answer anymore.
You see, it's comedic, but it's also serious at the same time. These dudes are masters at what they do. I cannot applaud them enough, guys. This was a wonderful interview. I think I'm going to end it there because I don't necessarily think he does end up actually answering the question. But you know what? Let me play some of it and see exactly where it ends because it's only like a minute left anyway.
Yeah,
I'm gonna keep weaving.
I lost interest.
We'll weave back. Let's weave back to his question. Because this is where it started. So we'll weave back to his. I sort of hate answering it because
Yeah.
I don't want to give any false identities. I don't want to do anything having to do with creating something that isn't there. You would look at Iran. Iran has an open threat out for me, and that's bad. And Biden, if he were a real president, if he were the kind of guy he should be, should say, if anybody shoots a former president who's now the leading candidate, even though he's leading against Democrats, we will bomb that country into oblivion. And it would stop. And
Yeah, but they know that we don't have any strong presidents because they've been doing whatever the hell they've been wanting to do for the past 4 years, and we have done nothing but send more and more funding to them. So, like, they understand right now that they can get away with whatever the hell they want, and the people that we have in power right now, or the people who are the figureheads of the people that we have in power right now, will not do a goddamn thing to stop them, and that's what they've been doing.
that's been said before with some people. You know, there have been people, I won't go into it, but there have been people that have been threatened in another party even. In the same party, it makes sense and probably happens pretty quickly. But in another party, you know, it's hard for them to
cross the
to
line.
want to protect me.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be hard. Other people have protected other people. And what you have to inform those people is if they do it, the country will be blown to smithereens. The entire country will be blown to smithereens. And those threats go away because that's a really bad threat for a country. Forget about me. I'm an individual. But I represent something very important.
It's true.
That's a really terrible threat.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are others that could be in that category. Look, I took
That's a wonderful answer, and I think I'm going to end it there, guys. Listen, fear of consequence is what makes people start acting right, and if people do not fear any consequences from our country as a whole, they will continue to do what they've been doing, and obviously he just said that he thinks it may be Iran there. I don't necessarily know. I'm more of the mind that the people who really, really want to see him not be able to become the president are people that are in this country who are really, really wealthy and powerful. I'm going to leave you guys to figure out who those people are because I don't necessarily want to... I don't want anybody coming after me, guys. I'm some little YouTuber just trying to make it out here in this world, and I don't want to end up with my head on a spike. So make your speculations all you guys want, but I'm of that mind that it's one of those people, and it's not some outside country or whatever. But I cannot applaud Andrew Schulz and these guys enough because I'm 100% sure that they lost interviews, they lost opportunities, they lost sponsorships and whatnot, as I mentioned earlier in the video. But these guys are obviously moral people because they understand how important it is to have this kind of conversation, and I'm sure they would be willing to have one with Kamala Harris as well. The fact of the matter is I don't believe Kamala Harris would be willing to come there because they know that they are going to really put her feet to the fire and they're going to ask her difficult questions that she's not going to have any answers for. But I loved watching this interview in its entirety. I've been saying it, and I know I sound like a broken record or whatever, but I loved watching this entire interview because it showed that Donald Trump is someone who's really, really personable, and it also showed that when you don't have a contentious interview and you don't have people trying to get gotcha questions, you actually get free-flowing information, and the people who are actually watching it can actually make concerted, informed decisions on what they want in terms of who the president is going to be. And I think we need to see a lot more of that. Those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about this entire interview. What do you guys think about Trump going on the Flagrant podcast? As always, I want to thank you guys for joining me on this video. You guys could have been anywhere else in the world, but you chose to be here with me, and I really do appreciate you. If you liked what you heard today, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you didn't like what you heard, thanks for watching the whole video. Consider leaving a comment in the comment section and telling me exactly what you disagreed with. Either way, thanks for joining me on this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.